Hey everyone,
Anyway,
welcome to the Hume podcast, Roles and Lols. For those of you who don't know Hume we're a recruitment training business based in Australia, and to date we have trained thousands of recruiters across Oz, New Zealand, and a bit of Europe.
this is going to be a 10-minute quick tips and tricks with hopefully some laughs along the way for agency recruiters.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoy, and if you ever have any topics you'd like us to cover in the poddy, please shout out. Otherwise, you'll see us every week on a Friday for 10-minute episodes. Hopefully you enjoy.
See ya.
Hello, team.
Hello. Welcome back to the little potty.
God, 8 weeks to go, and then we'll be
All
on
done.
leave.
Yeah, I can't believe
Christmas.
it. It will be all done very soon, but we've got a bit to get through before the end of the year is up.
Yeah. One thing we wanted to chat through today is something that's probably not sexy, something that doesn't get talked about often. I think often we talk about activity, but not the thing that I would say is probably the most important thing to track and work on, which is ratios.
Yeah, I think the old way, or the way that I think we've always been kind of trained, or we look at ratios or KPIs that are within an agency, is like when something's not working, if you do more of it, then you'll get the results. And largely what happens is you do get one or two more jobs if you pick up the activity. But if you actually just reassess the ratios and the quality of those ratios, you would actually get more with doing less.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it's all about, right? Like, there's two ways of working. You can just do more than everyone else. Eventually, you will get to the gold. If you do 1,000 calls, you're going to speak to someone that just happens to need a recruiter at that time, and you'll strike lucky. Not the way that we want to work. That's exhausting and it's not an effective use of your time.
Yeah, I feel like the quality quantity thing is interesting because it's kind of like the whole like chicken and the egg, like what comes first, and essentially both work, right? Like if you do more, then yeah, you will get more work, but are we going to have more joy or fulfillment in our roles? Is there going to be purpose driven or results that keep us going? So I know for sure I'd work a lot better if I'm doing the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah. I reckon where to start with this episode, because we've mentioned ratios to a few people and I've seen blank stares. So I can only assume some agencies just have never talked about ratios. So if you're one of those people that are like, what the fuck are ratios? Then they are your success metric. I.e., there's 5 key ratios that I would be looking at. Your candidate calls to internal interviews, so that's when you get a candidate in to meet with you, you interview them, etc. So how many calls do you on average need to make before you get one internal interview? Then the second metric is how many internal interviews do you typically have to get one CV out to one of your clients? Third metric, how many CVs do you send to your clients that equate to one interview happening? Then, how many interviews at your clients do you typically have to convert that to one placement? So there's key metrics there, and there's one other. I would go business development call to client meeting 1. Those would be your 5 main metrics.
Yeah.
And why you need to track these, team, is so you can go, what part of the process isn't working as well as I would like? I.e., not everyone needs the same training. And how do you know what training you need unless you're tracking these ratios? As an example, we were working with a senior consultant recently who'd had a consistent dip in billings for the last year. And my immediate chat with the business owner was, well, what does he need help with? And he's like, oh, just BD. I'm like, okay, what type of BD? Is he not doing enough calls? Are his calls average? He's not converting enough clients from calls? Or is it that he's winning client meetings but then not converting them to jobs? Or is it the fact that he's winning jobs but not placing them? Like, BD is so broad. Tell me what parts he's struggling with so we can zone in. And after sort of going through a number of stats, we identified he was getting a lot of client meetings, but his conversion rate from when he won a client meeting to job on was really, really low. So just from that one stat alone, I'm like, I know what the issue is. With 90% degree of certainty. He's good on the phone. He's picking up the phone. He's converting quite a few of those to client meetings one. But when he's in front of the client, something is going wrong because they're not trusting him to give him a job. So something's happening there. And ultimately, through this process of going through ratios and having a discussion with him, he's just not that comfortable selling in front of someone. He's happy on the phone because he feels like he's one step removed from that interaction and he can just hang up. Whereas client meetings, face-to-face meetings, he was like, I just haven't done enough of them in the last few years. So it was like, great, now we can zone in and go, sweet, you're getting all these client meetings, which is amazing. You just need to convert them more. So let's go through your process of how you conduct a client meeting. And just by focusing on that one area, we know we can improve his billings, because that's actually the part that he's dropping the ball on. When he gets a job, he's filling them really well. The part before the actual client meeting, he's doing really well. It's actually his problem was just holding the client meeting and getting client commitment, uncovering pain points within the client and solution selling to that. That for me is the best way to develop a bit of an L&D plan for yourself and to increase your billings. Yeah. It's not by training on every single aspect of recruitment, because you will find most people will have one or two key areas that they're maybe not as good at as they would like, and that will have the biggest impact on their billings.
Yeah, it's an awareness piece, isn't it, as well? And I think we get so caught up in doing the activity that we're not actually aware of where the activity is getting us. And that's how we've been taught. Do more, do the calls, do the meetings, it will happen. But when we are assessing and figuring out where the gaps are, if we're not aware of a metric like a ratio, then we're not actually going to understand what's not working or where we can improve. So it's really important not only to understand what the ratio is, but to then see the ratio improved, because we should have ratio goals, ratio targets, rather than just call targets. Yeah. We have this whole, 3-3-3 thing, but for some people it would be less, and for some people it would be a hell of a lot more. Yeah. But finding out where you sit within that range and how we can improve ranges, it becomes a skill or a motivation piece versus the quantity needs to increase.
100%. I reckon so. Any advice for anyone that wants to go down this route? First, make sure all of your stats are in the system, because otherwise, shit in, shit out, you won't get decent data. So you need to be tracking all of these things for ratios to actually work. Get your baseline of where you're at and assess it. What parts are just not working that well based on what the ratios are telling you? Then focus on those areas as L&D points, and you will have people within your business, people that you know in recruitment that you can lean on. It's not just external trainers like Luce and I. There'll be people around you that can just give you good tips around that one particular area of recruitment that I can almost guarantee, if you pick the right ratio where you're not as great, if you focus on that, that will have the biggest impact to your billings. But you need to track it. And that's probably the thing that stops people from looking at ratios, because you need the data, and the data only comes from the individual. You guessed it, putting it in.
The other thing that is important to mention here, actually next week we have a session on ratios. The whole session is going to be on this. So
smooth little plug
there. But no, it's something that we will be going through with our members, but the course is still available as well as an individual course. So if this is something that you want to know not only about the importance of them and how we track them, but we'll have availability there of how we can obviously provide that in the workshop.
Yes. Alrighty team, well, we will see you next week, and we might have, by then, a new name for the podcast. Stay tuned. See you team.
Alright, bye team.